Hey guys, it's Chris from Phase Fun Creations. Nice to see you all again. We're going to start on working with this tray, but here in a minute we'll work on that. I'll slide that forward just a little bit. This is the largest one that I have out of the collection. But before we do that, we're going to fix these little problematic areas in this particular piece. And then we'll talk some more about the larger tray. So, what I am hoping to do, bear with me for a second everybody, trying to find a small set of tools that I bought not long ago. And I forgot what drawer I put them in. Here we are. Anyway, what I'd like to do is to actually do a fall themed tray. I know the one was more geared for Halloween, but I am looking forward to actually doing something different. I don't usually celebrate Halloween too much. That was just not my particular favorite, I guess. So I'm going to use this set of tools that I got from my local Harbor Freight. There's a couple small places on this tray. There's at least one where right here is just very, very thin. So I'm just going to kind of pop that, maybe. And that might be the sticker, actually. Nope, it's just a tiny little piece of resin. Very, very thin. So now I can actually go in with my resin, and there's this big hole, then there's this little one here, and there's a little one here and here. So I can actually get those and cover those up, and then that piece should be done, other than trimming up a couple spots. So let me put my tools somewhere. Okay, here we go. It's a little warm in here today, guys. Maybe my resin will set fairly quick. Alright, as soon as I get this mixed up, I'm going to make a little extra because I know I'm not going to need very much for this piece. But I am going to need more for this large tray. And we'll get on with that in just a minute. So I'm going to be using my Let's Resin 1:1, like I have been. I absolutely love this stuff. It's awesome. So I'm going to mix up about 6 ounces, because I'm not going to fill all of that just yet. And I'll explain that in just a few minutes. So let me get my resin mixed up. I'm just going to do some clear for this piece because I don't need a whole lot. And then I'll explain what I want to do with this one. Alright? I will be back here in just a couple minutes. Okay. So it's got a few more seconds left to stir. And not even going to worry about the micro bubbles. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move this over on this other tray, because I'm going to need all of my workspace here in a couple minutes, and you'll understand very soon. Now, I'm not sure exactly if I'm going to use everything I've got laid out or not. However, again, we'll just kind of play it by ear. I want to incorporate a lot of different things into this next piece, and I'm not sure if everything was going to work out or not. So turn you around so you can kind of see what I'm maybe doing over here. A little bit anyway. Like I said, all I'm going to do is pour enough into the bottom of this just to cover the holes if possible. Because I don't want to fill up the whole tray. Set my resin off to the side. And just kind of tip it a little bit here and there. And then that's basically all I got to do for this piece to finish it up. And it is self-leveling. And look at that. Can't even tell there were ever holes in that piece. How awesome is that? And that's going to be beautiful when it's finished. Alright. So I am going to spritz that just a tiny bit because there were a couple air bubbles. Now, based off of the way this one looked with the cellophane in it, I want to try something a little different today with this piece here. So I have multiple Let's Resin colors. I want to use, this is actually wood from my property. And then I've got these little pieces of sea glass. Bought these at Hobby Lobby. And I picked out red, or like the browns, the yellows, some green. There's a couple of red pieces in there to put along the outside edge of this. And then I want to go in and at some point I want to use these colors, but I also want to use cellophane. And I did actually cut that a little smaller than what I needed it. That's okay. And then before I add the cellophane, I have some really pretty fall colored, that's the only fall type flower I have. But I want to add these pieces of floral, dried floral pieces. And like I said, I'd like to add some of this because this piece will mean a lot if I can add this, but I don't know if that'll work. So I've already used some packing tape and I've cleaned my surface here. I'm going to leave my resin set off to the side for right now. And I'm going to place my stones, sea glass, whatever you want to call it, along the outside edge. And if they don't fit, then I'm not going to push them down in there. I'll just set them off to the side. But I want as many, there is actually hair on that one. I want as many fall pieces in here, fall colored, as what I can get. Because that one's not really going to do anything. And that one's probably too wide as well. Okay. Like I said, some of these are not going to work at all. That one, that's going to push it a little bit. I'll raise him up a little. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Need to get some different colors in here. So that one's really cute. Let's slide those apart. Set a green one over here. That one's just a little on the tight side. Now, if they're overly snug, I'm not going to put them in there. Alright, so that one and that one are going to be too thick. That one won't work. Now, some of these, it's supposed to be sea glass, but you can see there's actually some that looks like beads, which is kind of funny. That one's too big. I really want some reds in here. I may have to open up the other container, and hopefully there'll be some red in that one. It's very fortunate in that I was able to actually buy 2 of them. I think they were on clearance at the time, but I'm not real sure on that. I'm trying to space these apart and add different colors, but it's not that easy when most of them are like browns and, or not brown, but oranges and stuff. This one can go here. That one can go there. And as far as my resin colors, I know that some of those are not necessarily going to match the sea beads or sea glass or whatever they're called. However, there's a pretty red one. I'm just kind of going for a general aesthetic, I guess. Add a couple more green ones somewhere. That one's a little too big, maybe. Nope, that worked. Because even though it's not necessarily my favorite time of year, there is a part of me that really does enjoy some of the cooler temperatures, especially at night when I'm trying to sleep. Put that green one there. Put a red one there. And I'll do a couple of the darker little ones. Now, something else that this does that I never really considered until probably the last year or so is that using stuff like this is really good. It can actually help you save on the amount of resin that you use. And I had never thought of that until, like I said, the last couple years or so. Move that green one, put that red one right now, lay down there. And we've talked before about how expensive resin can be. That one's too big. So, you know, whatever you can do to save on some money for your hobby, or if it's your career that you want to start out, go for it. You know, it's not going to hurt any. Alright, I think that's going to do it. Not as much red as I'd like, but anyway, I need to kind of get moving anyway because my resin will be starting to get pretty warm soon. Alright, so I have, I did 6 ounces, so I've got about 5 left, and I know I'm not going to need all of that just for that outline. Alright. Get a cup and pour a little bit of this in here to start with. And we'll just kind of set it off to the side. Grab my wipe because it started dripping. There's a small part of me that really just wants to pour everything in at one time. As far as my mica powder goes, but that would be kind of defeating the purpose of this whole thing. So right now what I want to do is start the process of getting any possible air bubbles out of here. That's why I didn't use that many stones, simply because I know that until it sets for a while, there are going to be bubbles working their way up for a little bit. All right. So that little bit might actually be enough. Take my little skewer, kind of move a couple. Oh, now get back down in there. Now, because it's kind of slick, I may have to take that one specific piece out. Yep, there's a bubble. I do have some of these pretty close together, but try not to get my head in the frame. Overlook me, guys. I'm sorry. Here we go. Like I said, I just want to kind of space them out a little bit more. That one's got to come out of there. It's not going to play well with others today. Don't want to. Come on. There we go. So I can use that in my next piece maybe. All right. So we'll move that one over. And all right, I think that's going to do it for that. Now that I've got a good idea of what I'm doing, and since I'm going to be putting some plants on there, I am going to go ahead and pour a bit of my resin, kind of like I did with my tray on the other side that we just put some resin on the bottom of. Just kind of pour some resin on here. And then I don't want to do too much because these little plants and stuff will tend to float on me. Set that off to the side. And just kind of help it gently go where I need it to go. Don't just kind of scrape with the edge of your sticks or whatever tools, because you can actually mess up your molds that way. I've learned by doing it myself. And I've had to throw away a few molds because I got a little overzealous trying to spread resin around in my molds, and I didn't realize that I'd ruined them or that I'd kind of put some damage on them until I had unmolded things. So always kind of use the side of whatever you're using, silicone tools probably not so much, but if you're using like a popsicle stick or craft stick of some kind, try to use the back side of it when you're able to. All right, that should do it for those. Now, again, these are not exceptionally fall worthy. However, I think they're going to be really, really pretty. I need to move that down a little bit more. And I've already got a hair in it. All right, got him. Another air bubble. And that didn't want to stay over there. Right, I'm going to go ahead and give that a spritz too while we're at it. Even though I've used the plants, or starting to use these little fern pieces or whatever you call them. I'm going to put this one about there. And I'm just going to let them sink in however they choose to for the most part. There we go. And these will probably move around a little bit. I need that one to move over this way. So I want to kind of make them as symmetrical as possible. See there? I don't know if you saw that, but my resin is actually trying to come away from the edges of my mold. Back around here a little bit, guys. All right, so there's that. And, whoops. You gotta be really careful with these dried plants because they're so fragile. And I'm gonna put that one right there, I think. And just kind of tap it down. What's going to happen is if I try to push them down into the resin, they're just going to float and they're going to move and do all kinds of crazy things. So with my little flowers, I'm going to just kind of pluck these apart. Which is why I really enjoy dry flowers. And just kind of layered in there a little bit. Okay, that's not going to work in that direction. That one is actually sticking above. So we will do a little snip. And then we can maybe press that down a little bit. That one may not actually work. We'll see. Not a big deal if it doesn't. And we'll put this one about right there. And just remember, guys, I have not added a whole lot of resin to this yet. So it's not too big of a deal at this point. Okay, we'll put that one. Nope. There we go. Move that over. Put that over here about right there. That piece may not work. They're sticking up much too far. All right, just toss those over here. We'll use something else. And the only issue with trying to play around with this is I still have about 2 ounces of resin that I need to use. And I just don't want it kind of going off and flash curing. Alright, so before I do anything else, I am going to separate these really pretty red ones because I don't want them all in one spot. I kind of want to put one over here. Whoops. That did not land where I needed it to go. Spin you around. Here we go. And that resin just does not want to stay. I may have to add a little bit extra in there, but not by much. Well, this piece, I'll put right about here. And that will be some color that I can add. Here in a while. We can put this one there. And move that one to about right there. Now it's not exactly specifically where I want it. However, I think that looks all right. So if I can find a couple pieces on here, maybe add a little bit more of my white. You know what? I think I'm just going to leave it. We're just going to leave it. Because I don't want to mess around and mess that up. All right. I think that will work. So, since this is autumn, I'm just going to kind of toss in a couple other runaway leaves. And wherever it falls, except for that one. Actually, no, we'll leave that there. Make it look like they're kind of falling from the sky kind of thing. And then I've got a couple little tiny fern looking things that I'm going to place about right in here. Make sure I have the right side. Awesome. We're just going to leave that as it is. All right, so question is, should I go ahead and put my cellophane in now, or because what I want to do at the end of this, when everything's all said and done, is I want to fill it in with my black resin. And I'm not sure how I want to continue, because I really like the effect that that caused, especially with the mica on the back of it. All right, here's what we're going to do. We are going to use our cellophane. I have some ink left over that I need to wipe off. And I just used a little cheap pen. It's one of my favorite pens, actually. It's not really that cheap. They are, what do they call them? Bottle-to pens. Yeah, bottle-to pen. It's just a purple writing pen. But, yeah. All right, there's a spot that's being difficult. Ah, it's on the other side. So again, this is not, it's not cut to perfection. I'm going to crinkle it like I did the last time. And pull it back apart. And like I said, I did kind of cut it a little too thin. Just spritz that with some alcohol this time because I forgot last time. And spritz the top of my resin. This one will probably get air bubbles under it. However, whoops. Yeah, that's much too small. Alright, I guess we are not going to use that today. So just very carefully pull that up out of there. Alright. Oops. I'm getting resin everywhere. Alright. So, we're just going to leave it like that then. I'm going to add a little bit more resin. And then I am going to look for another mold. And try to use the rest of this up a little bit. Because I did displace a lot of my resin on here by putting that cellophane on the top. My flowers stayed pretty much where I wanted them. I want that leaf to move a little bit. Well, that did kind of use a lot. Alright, so that, just pour a little bit on the back of my leaves. And we are going to do a top coat when this is finished. Like we did the other one just a few minutes ago. Alright, so there is that one. I'm not using the wood from the property today. I didn't think that I would be able to, but that's alright too. So my next step when we come back is I'm going to probably wait about an hour or so. Do I want to wait? Not really. I'm sorry that I'm so indecisive, guys. This is... just not sure how I want to continue with this. Alright, I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but here's what we're doing. Just getting tiny little bits of resin on the end of my brush and just kind of tapping a little bit with my colors. It may turn out and it may not turn out, but this is what we're doing. This one is going to almost match those pretty flowers perfectly, I think. And these are all Milette's resin mica powder. Okay. So I have yellow. This one is maroon. Just want a little bit because I have a feeling those may spread a little. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Okay. I may have to add a little bit more yellow. I don't know yet. Here's some really pretty forest green. Whoa, that one's already open. There's a lot of it. I said, I just kind of want to bring these colors in, kind of match the dry flowers that we put in there. Kind of tie everything together. Just a tiny bit more. My thought process on just kind of flipping these colors in a little bit. Again, that was a forest green. This one is a bronze. But I want to tie in the different colors of fall into this tray. It's not my favorite time of year. It's not my least favorite. I like Christmas, but I hate the really, really super cold days of winter. So, and just, my favorites, I guess, are spring and like not necessarily late spring, but not super early spring either. Whoops. That way you can watch everything kind of wake back up from the winter time. And you can watch everything come to life again. You know, the blooms of the flowers, or watch the, what do you call them? Like the little early moths and whatnot. Honeybees. As you all know, I am a beekeeper, so maybe we'll do a segment on honeybees one day. Who knows? I haven't done any on my business channel for a while, so we'll see what happens. Alright, that one was bronze. This one is called coffee. And ironically, I've only had 1 cup of coffee today. So this one, I don't want to use a whole lot because of how dark it is, but it'll help tie in like your tree stumps, or maybe things like, I don't know, not necessarily tree stumps, but things of that nature. You know, the more asleep kind of stuff. If that makes sense. Right, I am going to go back in with my yellow again. I need to find my orange as well. Whoops. We'll just call that one a little ray of sunshine here in the middle. And this is just plain yellow, guys. For anybody who wants to know what color this is, it's just yellow. But I want to add a little splash of a lighter color to brighten it up. Alright, I am going to find my orange. I have 1 orange in this whole box. There you are. And it is really pretty orange. And I think it'll go very well with some of the sea glass around the edges. My fingers are sticky. I might add some more of that maroon too, because I think that would blend in a lot better. Whoops. Try to make sure I don't get my brush in the resin. It's not what I want to do. This is actually a lot of fun. It's very relaxing for the most part. Alright, I am going to go back in with some of my maroon, and then we'll call it done until the next step. Like I said, I think this would, oops, might bring those flowers in a lot better and fill in some of these empty spots as well. Got a good bit of orange and a little bit of yellow over here on this other side, I think. It's got a few spots that just need a little dab of color. All right. So now I just need to find a mold for the rest of this. And that's 2 ounces of resin. What do I want to use it on? That's the next question. Alright, I'm going to need to use this one for a while. It's probably going to hold more than 2 ounces. Maybe. Should. Right, get my hands cleaned off a little bit. All kinds of sticky stuff on there. Alright. I got one of those little seashell molds. I don't know how much this one holds. It does not tell me. But we're going to use this as well as this one. So we're just going to kind of move you back. And then we'll put that one right there. Alright, so we are going to use some miniature seashells in here. And again, I got these from Dollar Tree maybe, or Hobby Lobby. I refill this jar, so I'm not 100% sure where they come from. And it doesn't really matter. Okay, yeah, it's starting to get warm now. All right. So those are going to have a few bubbles in there no matter what I do. I'm going to give it a spritz. Whoops. Normally I wouldn't spray that. My leaves have moved a little bit. I'm just going to leave them alone. Just leave them there. Alright, so there's about 2 ounces of resin. We're adding some seashells and it kind of bumps it up in bulk. And it's really getting thick on me. So put these away. Not sure, but I think somebody's using a vacuum downstairs. Alright, and we're going to put this little bit of resin back into that. Right, now I am going to spritz the inside of my mold here and kind of squish it around a little bit. Hopefully that will help prevent any bubbles from getting in the deeper sections where I can't reach it. And then we're just going to pour our seashells in the mold. Fairly easy, right? I've obviously never used this mold before, and I'm actually kind of excited because I've seen a lot of people use these, and the results have always turned out very pretty. Spread those out down along the bottom there. I need that one to turn over. Now it sounds like my husband's drilling or something. So if you hear any funny background noises, it's probably him. Alright. So some of these I'm going to kind of place myself. Like these really pretty scallop kind of shells. Get down in there. Oh, there's one that's a whole shell. Alright. So there's a lot of little tiny shells down in there. Like they're little miniature scalloped edges or, you know, whatever. But I want to get the bigger ones kind of pushed in to other spots. Kind of, that way they'll be able to form against the wall due to the fact that they have rounded outer shell or outer edges. And then whatever else is in there with them, you'll see on the inside when this is finished. There's a couple more larger ones, I think. Like that one over here, I believe. I can't wait to see this one tomorrow. I mean, as thick as this is, I may actually be able to unmold it tonight. What I might have to do, though, is go in and actually do a little bit more resin. And that way I can fill up any of those little gaps and whatnot. Yeah, I'll definitely have to come up with some more resin. Because I don't know how much I'm going to need, but I know I'm going to need a thinner resin to get down all the way down in there in those other spots. This is really starting to thicken up. I hope you guys can see this okay. I know my hand's in the way a bit. Alright, so that's empty and I still need a little bit more. We'll go ahead and spray that nice and thorough. And it can get, oops, knocking everything down again. But I have got quite a few empty spots. least it looks like it. I'm going to try and push some of these down in there. And I think what I'd like to do is actually get some sand. It'd probably take up about another ½ ounce or so. Do up like a really, really thick resin with some sand. Not thick resin. Well, yeah, thick resin. And I'm going to let that settle in my mold for a few minutes. And then I am going to do just a tiny little bit of sand and maybe make it blue or white, I'm not sure. And there's just a tiny little bit right there that needs to be filled in. But that's another day or another video. And I've already got this one for almost an hour. So, guys, I hope you like this. There are the 2 projects. And there is the other one. So, again, if you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe. And I will see you all on the flip side when it's ready for the next step. Bye for now.